Chapter 1. Donnie Jackson. The traffic was moderately crowded in LA. A few cars were here and there, going at the same pace on the highway, like the scattered clouds in the sky, except for Donnie's McLaren. Donnie grinned as he zoomed down the highway, his McLaren purring beneath him. He loved the feeling of power and speed as he accelerated, leaving the other cars in his wake. As he swerved in and out of traffic, he couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. He was the coolest guy on the road, and he knew it. But as he sped up, he suddenly realized that everyone else was driving at a snail's pace. He swore under his breath, annoyed at their lack of speed. He had places to be and people to see, and he didn't have time to waste on these slowpokes. With a determined look on his face, Donnie pulled his car alongside the other vehicles and began to weave his way through the traffic, using his speed and agility to his advantage. He grinned as he saw the looks of awe and admiration on the faces of the other drivers, and he knew that he was the envy of everyone on the road. As he finally reached the open road, Donnie pushed the pedal to the metal, letting the McLaren roar as it shot forward. He felt the wind rushing through his hair and the world flying by, and he knew that this was the life he was meant to live. He was unstoppable, untouchable, and above all, he was cool. "Fucking cunts," Donnie whispered as he sped up in between cars like the sun ray between those slow-moving clouds. For him, every second wasted behind a slowly moving car is a loss of money. He doesn't want to lose the empire his father left him after his mysterious disappearance 21 years ago, when he was only a kid of 10 years. His mother, Catherine, made sure that she carried on the legacy of being from a wealthy family, married a wealthy man, and continued to increase their wealth until Donnie was able to take the baton and run with it. He finally arrived at his destination and pulled up in front of a big building. He stepped on the accelerator pedal a couple of times, and the car made a roaring sound, showing off its power. He noticed the valet running towards him, not a familiar face. He got out of the car, buttoned his jacket, and took a couple of deep breaths as he looked at the glass building with satisfaction, as if he was checking what he owned. He leaned back in and picked up his briefcase. "Good morning, sir. I will take care of it." "Are you new here, kid? Where's Cisco?" "He's inside, sir. It's my turn," said the valet boy nervously. His heart was about to jump out of his chest. Everything in his life has been calculated and predicted. He didn't like unpredictability. His mother had made sure that his life followed a certain path, and he continued doing that. No, I said Cisco," with his hand firmly holding onto the still open door. Donnie said in an affirmative voice. He hated repeating himself. "Nobody drives my car but him, so run back and get him." Before he, the new kid, had the chance to reply, Cisco pushed open the front glass door of the building entrance and came out running towards Donnie's car. "I am sorry, Mr. Jackson. Sorry, so sorry," he kept saying as he jumped in the car and drove off. Donnie started walking towards the entrance. He greeted a few people on his way to the elevator only by nodding his head or providing a smile. He didn't have to talk when he could only show his handsome face and let his facial expressions do the work for him. He kept adjusting his tie before he pushed the button to the last floor. He gave one last look to the people who waited for the next elevator. After all, they all knew the rule not to get in the elevator with the owner of the building. His life has been controlled by rules. Some were set by him, but mostly set by his mother. The time he is allowed to stay up, his choice of friends. There were rules at the dinner table. As he grew older, it had become more difficult for him to live his life without rules. He started setting himself up for those kinds of rules until rules finally ruled his life. As the elevator moved up, he turned around and looked at himself in the mirror. He checked his hair and touched the sides of his head. He made sure there was nothing that should not have been there on his shoulders. He continued to do that until he heard the cling sound of the last level. The elevator door opened, and the noise of the talking people overshadowed the elevator's classical music. He continued to walk between the scattered desks and offices. Many people stopped doing what they were doing just to say the morning greeting to him as he was pacing to his office. He unlocked the door and walked into his office. Nobody was allowed to use that door except him. His office was empty except for a big desk against the glass window behind it, a desk chair, and one smaller leather chair on the opposite side. He walked to his black shiny desk where there was nothing but a laptop. He took a quick glimpse of the view out of the window and smiled at the world as if he owned it. He put the briefcase in a drawer and sat down. Not long before the front slide door of the office opened, and Rachel entered the office holding a big folder. "Good morning, sir." "Hi, Rachel. Everything ready?" he asked as he opened the folder and started looking at the few pages inside. Rachel was a trusted secretary of his. She had been working for him for nearly 4 years. She was active, the first to arrive and the last to leave, highly organized. Donnie trusted her with all his work secrets. She did not only know about the lawyer business, but she also knew about the family firm in general. She wore formal clothes all the time, a dark-colored dress that matched her brown eyes and fair skin. It ended just above her knees, which showed her skinny legs. Rachel sat on the chair on the other side of the desk. She put one leg over the other to support the big folder she was carrying. "I had to terminate our contract with One Stop Company. They have not paid our retaining fees for the last 2 months. That's about $40,000. Sally has already filed a case for late fees, which should get us the late fees plus penalties." $42,376, he said without lifting his eyes off the paper. "Well, yes, and what have you decided about Franco? It's a difficult case. Too many witnesses saw him beat up that guy at the bar." "The governor's nephew? Give it to Emily. She'll take care of it. Tell her to dig up dirt on the dead guy, a drunk 50-year-old man alone at a bar making random remarks. He must have something in his pockets that would sway the case towards Franco. We can't get him out of prison. We just need to get him 3 years max." Rachel kept flipping the pages back and forth, mumbling, "I think that is it," then lifted her face. "Oh, and Natalie's case, of course. That is next week." Suddenly, his facial expressions changed, and he looked down at the desk. "I'll take care of that. By the way, there's someone in my office who wouldn't talk to anybody but you. Judging by the stone on her finger, she looks loaded." "What's her name?" "Selena Dankworth." Donnie lowered the paper down and looked at Rachel. "Addison's wife? They do have the same last name. Isn't he the one who owns the furniture shops?" Looking more intrigued, Donnie put the folder down on the desk. "He doesn't just own shops. He has factories for almost everything. Bring her in about 30 minutes." Rachel got up and left through the front slide door. Donnie closed the folder. He got up and walked to his office bathroom. He stood in front of the mirror, checked his hair in all directions, touched his face to make sure he was clean-shaven, touched his eyebrows with one finger, and raised his head to make sure his nose was clean-shaven. He then took a few steps back and glanced at himself from a panoramic view. He saw nothing but what he thought was a picture of perfection. He picked up his phone from his pocket and noticed the 2 missed calls, different phone numbers that he did not recognize, and 2 voicemails. He unlocked his phone, clicked on the call logs, and blocked those numbers. He dialed a number as he walked back to his desk. He heard the ringing tone as he sat down, then heard the manly voice that came across the phone. Smoking had taken its toll on this voice. "Hey, doll." "Hey, Mom. I didn't see you this morning. You had already left." Donnie's mother was a slim and tall woman in her 50s with gray hair. She chain-smoked all the time. It was well known that she could be found outside if she disappeared from a meeting. She filled up her time taking care of the charity her husband had left her after Donnie took over the matters of the company. She was never a woman that was alone. Her charm overshadowed the wrinkles on her face. Her husband's fortune made her famous amongst the California high class that had similar amounts of money. She was tough, did not accept mistakes, and pushed for flawlessness in every aspect of her life, including her son. "Oh, yes, doll, charity stuff. You okay?" "Yeah, I'm great," he said, as he opened the folder and started looking at the pages again. "Don't forget, we're having dinner with the Gellers tomorrow. Sandy will be there. How's work? You have court today, right?" "Yes, Mom. I'll be there. Gotta go. Talk later. Love ya." Then he looked at his phone again, searched for Rachel's phone number, and sent a text that said, "Bring her in 27 minutes. He put the phone down on the desk, put his hands behind his head, leaned back on his chair, and closed his eyes. After exactly 27 minutes, Rachel opened the front slide door and stepped inside. Selena entered the office wearing a short black dress that was almost inappropriate for a daytime official lawyer visit. Her hair leaves nothing to the imagination, to the price she paid to have it done. Blonde and pulled back. The jewelry around her neck and wrist reflected the big check that was handed over to the shop when it was bought. "Hi, Selena Dankworth." "Donnie Jackson, please have a seat." "I am Maggie's friend, Maggie Bestow. She sent me. You're the best in the business, I heard. I hope you think the same. But judging by the looks of your empty desk, I already have my doubts," she said with sassy sarcasm on her face. "It's not the desk, Mrs. Dankworth. It's who's sitting behind it. I am not a traditional lawyer. I have everything I need on my laptop. It's easier to carry and more organized. So, what can I do for you?" asked Donnie as he leaned back in his chair. "Well, my husband is suing me. He is claiming that I threw a vase at him. I am countersuing him for half of what he owns. I want a divorce." After a short pause, Donnie studied her body language. She was rubbing her fingers. She was nervous and was about to lie. She then reached out for her necklace. It was a sign that she feared losing the lifestyle she had. "Well?" she asked with her eyes wide open. She was getting impatient. "Did you throw a vase at him?" "I might have done it, I don't know." The stubborn, defensive look on her face confirmed the accusation in Donnie's mind. "Mrs. Dankworth, Selena, if you want me to represent your case personally, please understand, I don't take straightforward cases. If you've done it, I would. If you hadn't, I wouldn't. And any lawyer in my office can represent and win the case for you. Also, one more thing. You need to tell me everything. Judging by how the conversation is going, you might not be." After a brief pause, Selena looked down at her purse and said in a quiet voice, "Well, there's a video on the house security camera of me throwing the vase. He also went to the hospital shortly after." Donnie leaned forward on his desk and grabbed a pen. He started fiddling with it. After a minute of silence, he leaned back, looked Selena in the eye, and spoke. "Do you have a phobia of anything?" "Phobia," she replied with an expressionless face. "Phobia, fear of something." "I know what phobia is," she said in an offended voice. "I just don't see how that's relevant to anything I am telling you. I don't like heights, if that's what you mean." "Spiders?" "Oh, I hate spiders. I think we're getting off track here. Do you have a pet?" After giving a big sigh, "I have a cat." "Excellent. Okay. This is how it's going to work. I will take the case. I will take 10% of what you get from your husband, half before I start and half when we win the case. You will need a psychological evaluation, a doctor that I will recommend. I will need a list of your friends and family. This will be a high-profile case. It will cost you a lot, money and time-wise. I will have to get a consultant to choose the jurors. In addition, I will hire a tech expert to extract all the text messages you had sent on your phone, including social media. You want me to pay $4 million now? He gave her a small smile. Did Maggie tell you what she paid and what I did for her? Your case is much harder, Selena. What makes you think you're going to win? He chuckled. It's easy. I want the other $4 million. More importantly, I've never lost a case. Ever. That means more to me than any other amount you can pay me. If you'd like to proceed, Rachel will give you all the necessary documents on your way out. You can have a look, think, sign them, and bring them back whenever you want. The faster, the better. Selena gave him a suspicious look. She stood up and walked back towards the door she had come through. Donnie picked up his phone and texted Rachel. High-profile meeting in 10. He leaned back in his chair, turned around to have another glimpse at the city below him, and gave the world another smile. He stayed in this position for 10 minutes. Then he got up, put his phone in his pocket, picked up his briefcase, and walked to a sliding door on the right side of his office. The door led to a spacious room with a big wooden table. 6 chairs were arranged around this big mahogany table. All were filled with people, but the one next to the chair toward the end, where Donnie sat. He greeted everybody, picked up his laptop from the briefcase, and started a new document. We have a high-profile case, the Dankworth case. We have to prove that she was emotionally and mentally abused. She needs to divorce her husband. I want a psychological evaluation. Sally, you can take care of that. I want her to be a part of the Me Too movement. Mark, I want you to contact Dr. Campbell. Get an appointment to assess her fear of spiders. Emily, I need you to be available on juror selection day. Young, mainly females, keep that in the back of your mind. Rachel walked in holding a bunch of papers. She sat down in a hurry on the chair next to Donnie. What did I miss? We were just talking about the Dankworth case, Sally said as she was scribbling something down on a piece of paper. She hasn't even signed the retention paper, Rachel said as she was adjusting her chair and looking at everybody at the table. Everybody stopped writing and looked up. All eyes turned to Donnie. She will, he said with a snarky smile on his face. Then he got up and walked back toward the door that led back to his office. Get to work. We're late for court. Let's go, people. It's almost 8. As he entered his office and shut the door behind him, he turned around, and then he froze. A man was sitting on the chair in front of his desk. Can I help you, sir? How did you get in here? This man didn't say a word. Instead, he kept looking down at the rings on his hands. Donnie walked slowly toward his chair as his neck kept turning, trying to get a glimpse of the man's face, apprehensive of what was going on. That was unpredictable, and that made him extremely uncomfortable. The cowboy hat was obscuring his line of vision. Sir, if you need my service, you first need to get an appointment. My secretary would be able to help you with that. I am not here for your services, Donnie. The muffled voice sent shivers down Donnie's spine, but at least he could get a foretaste of this man's face. He looked the same age as Donnie. He wore a shirt. His chest was wide open, showing his necklace that held a sword or a knife of some sort. His hands contained 3 or 4 rings each. The denim pants were worn off and hid the big cowboy boots underneath. Sir, now Donnie was able to get to his chair, still surprised that a stranger was able to get to his office without anybody noticing. How did you get to my office? And what would you like? How? Easy. Your secretary was not at her desk. I just walked in. What would I like? Simply nothing. I am just here to let you know that I am going to buy a few houses in Vienna and Spain. Why would that concern me? After letting out a few chuckles, I am going to use the company's account. I travel a lot, and it would be nice to be able to spend some time in a nice place. Donnie reached out to his phone. He was about to text Rachel to call security. "There is no need for that," said the man calmly. "No need for what?" "Calling security. I won't take much of your time. I will leave in 2 minutes." "I just need you to ask the right question," said the man with his muffled voice. "Okay, well, what is your name?" asked Donnie, as he started to lose his patience. "Call me Mike." "But that's still not the right question." "Okay, who the hell are you?" "Now we're getting somewhere. You will know in time. For now, don't panic when you learn about that purchase. Don't do anything irrational. It will happen," said Mike as he got up. He took off his hat and put it on his chest, which showed his curly hair. "I must admit, in all your trials, you've been nothing short of being brilliant." Then he turned around and started walking toward the door that led to Rachel's office on the way out. "You've come to my trials?" asked Donnie as he started to lose his temper. "Hey, are you stalking me or something? What the hell do you want, and who are you?" "Keep up the good work, Donnie boy," he said with a smile as he shut the door behind him.
If you enjoy hard copies and would like to read this book, the link is provided in the description section below. It is also available as audiobook on Amazon.